Alrighty, so here we go for another interview with Duane Bischoff. First with Duane Bischoff for Time with Uncle Sam, and so if this is your first podcast that you're ever listening to, or is this called a vlog now? You've actually done podcasts, right?
This could be a podcast.
Podcast, okay.
It's more of a podcast.
This is the junky equipment with a cell phone video, and hopefully the concrete floors don't mess up with the audio too much, but we'll speak loud and go from there. So anyway, thanks for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome.
They've had a full day. We were trying to fit this interview in for a while, and I was up here for an estimate and called you, and you said,
let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this. And oh crap, I didn't realize it was this late already. Yeah, we'll make it work. Come on in. So thanks for doing this. One of the things that my frustrations in county government has been that when I just business owner, family, other things going on, usually when there's a county election, it's always there's a state or there's a federal election as well. And so, I'm driving down the road, coming home from work, I want to see customers, and I see somebody's signs out, and then I show up to the polls, and I know who I'm voting for president. I know who I'm voting for my
right.
congressman or somebody else, and I just vote for the name that I recognize. And I know that's not right, but that's what I had time to do previously. And so, and I'm not a part of the, my parents weren't originally from here, so the connections that I've made have just been through business, and I'm not really networked with the political establishment or the current people elected to office, if that's a better way of saying it. And so I wanted to do this, and I'm appreciative of you being willing to take the time to do this so that people actually know or have some idea. They have the option to be informed about, is this somebody I like? Is this somebody I align with? Is this somebody I agree with? Who do I want to vote for in local government? And so we met like 7, 8 years ago, something like that.
It's probably been at least 8 years, yeah.
Okay.
The local business group we were both, I belong to.
And
I don't know if you joined, if I invited you. I think I invited you to join, might have.
I think it was an insurance agent, and then it was a family member. You might have been, or
might have been, but anyway.
Somebody else.
Yes, that's where we met.
So then, and I had old trucks at the time. I still have old trucks. They just don't break down as
They're
much.
not as wore out as the old ones.
As some less used older trucks.
Right.
And I had problems trying to find a good mechanic that didn't take me for everything I was worth. And we're not friends. We're not buddies. I've never been over to your house for dinner. You've never been to my house.
We're just business.
Right.
Well, still friends, but yeah.
Right. But not in like the
business acquaintance.
Right.
More.
So I've known you in a business capacity, and
right.
I'm excited to do this interview as well because I told my wife before I came up here, I said, I'm actually kind of excited for this. I know Duane as far as, we talk some politics.
Right.
I'm sure we don't agree on everything. Nobody ever does.
Right.
But we have a lot in common when it comes to that. I'm excited to find out your story, more about you, etc. And so we'll just start with this. And why don't you start with, for those who maybe don't know you, background, born, raised, parents' occupation. I mean, how did you, from kid growing up to starting your occupation here, successful business owner, multiple businesses now, etc. What's that story of your childhood, growing up years, and then we'll just get going from there and ask some questions, and we'll see where this goes.
All right. Well, I'm Duane Bischoff. I was born and raised here in Dearborn County.
Okay.
Actually, I grew up about 1 mile from here. So my parents owned Bischoff's Greenhouse on State Road 46 from 1961 to 2002, I think it was. Okay. It was a little over 40 years. So I grew up there. That's where
So maybe that's why I liked you secretly, is you grew up with a green thumb, and when I met you, I was a landscaper tree guy.
Probably, possibly. Well, actually, the funny story that I was almost owned a greenhouse before. When I got out of high school, went to mechanic school, went to become a mechanic, couldn't find a job at the time, was helping my dad, and a greenhouse became available to buy. We were going to run both greenhouses. I was going to run one, and during the summer, we would grow everything at home. I would move plants there, run that one during the summer, and there was a house there, so I was going to live there, but I would run it there in the summer. We'd have 2 greenhouses during the summer and then condense back in the fall. So the week that my dad went to look at this place, I also got called for an interview for my first interview, and he came home from looking at it, and he said, and I said, my interview's Friday. He said, we'll see what Friday does, and let's see what happens. So Friday came, I got the job, and I came home, told him I got the job. He goes, okay. We won't worry about that other greenhouse.
And
so that's
fate was decided between trimming lilacs or changing spark plugs.
Changing spark plugs, changing oil. So here I was, so I started working at Toyota Cincinnati.
So hold on, so back up. So grew up with your parents, you grew up in a business owner family then?
Yeah, we'll go back. So yeah, I grew up, my mom and dad owned the greenhouse. Okay. So I grew up, mom and dad were home. I mean, I've never not knew mom and dad being home. If I needed something, you called home,
Right.
mom or dad was there. Pretty much my whole life. My dad worked for a few years. I can vaguely remember getting up when he was working at Philco up in Connorsville, but he got cancer, and the doctor told him you got to quit one or the other. You can't, because he was just doing like a roadside stand stuff
Oh,
in the
gotcha.
beginning. So he said one or the other. So my dad quit the Philco and became full-time working home with the greenhouse, and then and grew from there. And so like I said, my mom and dad were home all
Right.
the time. So I knew no different. That's the way I thought life was. I thought everybody's parents was home with them all the
Right.
time. So it was a great childhood.
As close to a farming experience as you can have.
Oh yeah, because I mean, my dad had something going all year long
Right.
to hustle to make money to raise 6 kids. I got 4 older brothers
Okay.
and a baby sister, so I'm the baby boy, and then my sister's the oops. She was 10 years after me, so but mom and dad finally got the girl. So one of 6, the youngest of boys. But anyway, yeah. So I got out, got the job, worked at Toyota Cincinnati. Became
How long were you there?
almost 7 years. I was the youngest team leader in the city. So and we worked on a team system where you had a team leader, your lead tech, and then an apprentice.
Okay.
So I started as an apprentice, worked with 2 great guys that taught me a lot when I
Okay.
first there. But my only way to advance over them was to move teams. So I switched teams to try to get more money to grow.
Just growing and following your career.
Eventually I became team leader of that team, I was team leader at like 23, I think 22.
Okay.
So was the youngest team leader in the city, and did that for a few
You feel
years.
like growing up in a business owner family gave you a competitive edge once you entered the
Yeah, I knew
workforce?
I wanted to move up. My wife, I used to be really shy until met my wife, and she regrets changing that. But yeah, once I got going, I'm very competitive, so I want to go and I'm going to work my way up. That's like when I started there, I didn't really know anything out of school, but I got lucky with 2 great guys.
Right.
My lead tech was just like me, but older. He hunted, fished, so we just clicked from the moment we
Okay,
got there.
gotcha.
So I learned a ton. But anyway, so I got my own team then. I was running my team, was doing fine, would still be moving up, became a Toyota Master, was ASE certified Master Tech. But I wasn't happy with the way we were treating customers.
Okay.
My upbringing was you took care of the customers, everything, you did everything,
Right.
My mom and dad always had plants, and somebody even joked to me the other day, they remember coming to the greenhouse and we'd sell plants in dozen trays. Well, if one didn't look good or was missing, we would pop it out, go find a good one from another tray and fill that tray with 12 good plants. You took care of your customers, you give them the best you could every time you took them, and then they come back. So I took that to work. Whenever I got a job, I wanted to do the best I could. Well, towards my final times there, I had a service writer, was probably one of the best service writers in the city. He could sell anything to anybody. But it got to the point where he wanted to sell work and not have work done. And that was one of my sour tastes. If you sold a job, I'm doing it. Did the car need it? I can't be the judge of that. But once it's sold,
Right, because you're not the one deciding. You're just reporting your boss.
I'm just doing the work. So one day as a team leader, I come back and one of my lead techs was spraying a valve cover off with brake cleaner, just cleaning it off and blowing it dry. And I said, "What are you doing?" And I knew what the job was, and I knew there was no way he did it. And he said, and I won't say his name, said, "Just to spray this off, it don't need it." I said, "Oh, I know it don't really need it, but if it's sold, we're doing it." Well, he said, "Don't do it." I said, "Well, I'm the team leader. Once it's back here, it's mine. Pull the valve cover, check the valves. That's what we're gonna do." It's a 3.5-hour job. So that's a lot of money.
Pay for it.
Customers paying for it, and it didn't really need it, but it was needed it by time and mileage, but they usually didn't wear it anyway. So I forced him to do it. I made him to tear it down. He tore it down. He started checking it. Well, in the meantime, my service writer came out and yelled at him. I was on a test drive. I just come back. He's yelling at him for doing the job. And so I had it out. I got called into the service manager's office because I was making him do this job that was sold.
Which is just running the business with integrity.
Right. It's just doing what you're supposed to do, what you're being paid to do. I was doing what we were being paid to do. And like I said, I didn't choose what jobs got sold, but if they got sold, they got done on my team.
And they were going to be done right.
Right. They were going to get done right. So after that, I'd come home from work, my stomach would hurt. I just didn't like life no more. And decided I was going to go on my own. And my wife goes, "Fine, quit," because she was tired of me coming home not feeling good and just being agitated and aggravated. So,
right.
Quit my job. Went in one day.
23 at that point?
Well, 7 years. So I was probably 25 by the time I quit.
So it's 18 to 25.
Yeah,
of work
I
there.
think of how old I am now. So yeah, somewhere in there. So I was young.
I'm 31. I sometimes get these ages mixed up, and
Yeah.
20,
Yeah.
30 years from now, I'm going to really have problems.
Yeah, but anyway, so I was late 20s when I quit. But I had, well, it was 1990. My son was born.
This
so-
is 33 years ago. 1990. I was born in 92, November. of
So yeah,
92.
we'll be in business 33 years this year. So 33 years ago, I quit.
Okay.
But anyway, so I worked for another guy for just a little bit. He said I could keep him busy. He couldn't. So I rented a little garage. Started there. We grew the business from there. Bought this property. It was woods. We cleared this property myself. Did all the work. Cleared this property. Had this building built. The initial building back there where you first started here was
Right. That wall, right?
that wall there was the end of the beginning of the first building.
Right.
So 40 by 100. But we built all this. We had nothing. I mean, when we first got married, my wife and I had nothing. We were two dumb young kids, and people told us we'd never
But you had a
laugh.
dream and ambition and work ethic and
And a drive and a love for each other. And,
Right.
you know, we were talking about this the other night on the phone. We both kind of got lucky. We both got good wives.
oh yeah, absolutely.
that
Not kind of, really got lucky.
Yeah, we really got lucky, but I mean, she's been my rock that has supported everything I've done.
Right.
You know, quitting jobs. She took care of the kids when I first started this because I was working here day and night. You know, to build a business and
I know
get
what
things
that's like.
going. Working hard, but you know, that's what I was taught when I was young. You work hard. If you want something, you work hard. You can get it. And,
Right.
You know, that's where we've got what we've got. I mean, I heard all the rumors when I first started that I had a rich uncle left me money and you know all these things.
People really circulated rumors about that.
Oh yeah, I was told by a few friends that that's what they were told how I did it, and there was no rich uncles. You know, there was a lot of nights we didn't have a lot, you know, and it was just what it was. But we made do. You know, we worked our butts off, and we
Yeah.
got what we've got, and where we are today from that through that hard work.
Okay.
So
So that you got up into there, so you've now got a second business on top of that, third business,
Well,
farm. I mean, wait.
well, we got 3 or 4 businesses. We own Hoosier Foreign Auto is our main
Right,
main business, the auto repair. I own Hoosier Power Sports, which we started 5 years
Which
ago,
is
which is
these
where
license and
Yeah, we're sitting in the showroom. We sell a Hisense side by side and the Tau, which is the youth kids, the
Okay.
economical youth quads and stuff. We service
you
other.
started that 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago,
years
yeah,
ago.
I bought my wife one for Christmas before I was a dealer, just trying to find her a little side by side. I got it home and I thought, man, this is a really, really good little piece of machinery, and it was affordable. And I thought, you know, there was nobody around here selling them, so I thought, well, here we go. And 6 months later, I spent 3 months researching to buy one. Then I spent 6 more months researching before I became a dealer. And then we were a dealer for a year or two before we built this. But we've been in this building now about 5 years.
Okay. So, is this your first time running for public office? Have you ever been in public office before?
Not public office, but in the public's eye, I guess, because
Okay.
St. Leon Sewer went through here. I don't remember what year it was, 98, somewhere around there. I didn't need to be involved with the sewer, but my parents owned the greenhouse. So sewer, you're charged for your sewer by the amount of water you use.
Oh wow.
So my parents are watering, I think there was 11 to 13 greenhouses.
Plants aren't pooping, and yet they're taking up all the
We're
water.
they're just imagine turning a garden hose on every day, at least one, and let it run all
All day,
day,
yeah.
every day. Well, that's what they were going to dump on the ground. So they were going to be paying sewer for that, and they're upset. They don't know what they're going to do. So I got involved. I started going to meetings to try to figure out
Right.
a fix for this problem. And sometimes when you go to boards and there's nobody wanting to fix it, they're like, why don't you get on the board? I'm like, fine. So I got on the sewer board just
Careful when you start complaining. You might have to be the solution.
Right. So I got on the board to help fix this issue and ended up becoming president of the sewer board. And I think I was president of the sewer board for 6 or 7 years,
Okay.
but took it from
Are you still on that or no?
No, I got off of that, but took it from the beginning where we had police at the meetings. When I was going to meetings, there was police there because it was screaming and yelling matches and it was chaos. And then when I took over, we still had police there for the first few months because there was still people, that was the way they were used to dealing
Right,
with things.
yeah.
And the first meeting I went to, some people came in and started yelling, and I said, whoa. I said, this isn't how it's going to go from now on. If you want to come talk, you know, we had a board, or you know, we were a committee or whatever for the sewer board. I said, we're new, so if you want to come talk, you can talk to me. I'm not going to listen to yelling. If you want to yell, there's the door. Go out. But I'll listen to what you got to say.
Right.
We'll see if we can find a solution. We probably won't know it tonight, but we'll find out and we'll work through it.
Right.
So the first couple months, the yelling was getting calmer and less, and by the third month, I told the sheriff, I don't want you here anymore because this isn't what we're doing. And the meetings after that, there was a few other people were upset, but they come in heated, but we always talk it through and we solve problems and you work through it. That's what you're supposed to
do.
That's a community, and that's what a board or a committee is supposed to do, is find out what the problems are. Is there a fix for it with what you can do, and then fix the problem and then go to the next thing.
But you have to have good people on, you have to have solution-oriented, capable people on those boards, etc.
And we did. We had a good board in those years. We had some really good people. We had other business owners. One of them was Chuck Hale, who ran Higher Ground Campground down the street.
Oh yeah, I met him.
He just retired from there, but he ran that, where he was on the sewer board. Actually, he was still on the sewer board up until he just retired. So he's just finally retired from there. But we had him and a few other good people, and we learned to deal with people. And then once I got off of that board, I was invited to go to a fair board meeting because my kids were in 4-H. I grew up with 4-H. I wasn't a 10-year member. I was a 9-year member. The last year I was in college, so I didn't participate, but my kids were in it. Gentleman asked me, Russell Bierstoffer asked me to come to a meeting, and I thought I was just going to a meeting. Well, I think 3 meetings later, I was president of the fair board, and ended up being president of the fair board, the Dearborn County Fair Board, not the 4-H board, but the Dearborn County Fair Board for I think 14 or 15 years. So I was president all through my kids, and then for about 6 or 8 years after they were out of 4-H, I stayed on and stayed president.
So in other volunteer roles, but not in a public office, nothing.
No paid business or paid roles, but still in a public's eye. Still running a business, because my idea of running a fair was run it as a business, and we were in the red for a lot of years because we weren't running it like a business. Well, once I got things going and convinced people we need to start changing our way of thinking, we started doing things different. We started running like a business. We were in the black, and by the time my goal was to get 2 years of savings built up that they could run the 4-H fair, because we funded the 4-H fair. The Dearborn County Fair raised the money to run the 4-H fair. So my goal was to have 2 years of money in the bank to run the 4-H fair. If all hell broke loose, there was money there. Well, all hell broke loose, COVID. That was the year I got out, was right before COVID hit. Well, there's no county fair really, no sponsorship, so they needed money. Well, there was money in the bank.
Right.
The county gave a little bit of appropriations, but it was nothing to run the 4-H program. So we had enough money built up in the Dearborn County Fair Board money, which was their money. We were a committee of the 4-H board.
Okay, gotcha.
So the money was in the bank that they could utilize to run the 4-H program to get it going. So anyway, then I got off the 4-H board when COVID hit, because I was getting busy here. And
is that when you picked up Hyson around that time?
That was when we picked this up, and we were just getting this going. Yeah, and it just needed to pull back to get this going and get it where it is.
So another question: when you think of the role that government should play in our lives, as a citizen, what comes to mind? Or maybe a better way of asking this question: as a husband, father, business owner, etc. What is it you want, of the people, for the people, by the people, is supposed to be our government? When you think of the county portion of government, and a lot of people think about federal and state, and that's another conversation for the day. When you think about county, what do you want from your county government?
County government to me is roads and streets. Keep the roads where I can get where I need to go.
Right.
Police and fire. Make sure that everybody is safe and they have protection if needed, or have response if needed. And other than that, kind of stay out of the way and let small businesses run. Try to help small businesses grow and develop, because they're the heart of what the county is. The county isn't a big major industrial area. We do have NGP, but I'm not sure what the employee base there is. And you have Thatcher Glass. We have a few larger businesses, but they're not
that's called Anchor Glass now?
Anchor Glass.
Anchor Glass, okay.
Yeah, so we have a few larger businesses, but still the heart of this county is still small business.
Right.
Mine, few employees, up to there's some bigger ones, but it's still all small business. So encourage small business and try to help enhance small business and let them prosper and grow and keep funding your community.
one of the things one of my early business coaches or business mentors told me was every time you become a full-time self-employed business owner, you just created 2 jobs in the economy. The one you created for yourself, and then the one you quit because now you're full-time. And so you gave your job. They always said, do the economy a favor. Go give your job to somebody who really needs it. Go build your own business.
Yeah,
And I think that's one of the reasons. I think it was Ronald Reagan who said that the small business owner is the backbone of the American economy.
it is really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you get in, I don't know what other counties like, but Dearborn County, I find that the small business owner is much more than just the backbone of the economy. They're usually the people who are also deacons at your church, on the sewer board, at this committee, and I want to see those kind of people involved in local government as well, or the coaching the soccer team, or helping sponsor the soccer team, or baseball, or whatever you're doing.
You can check me off with all those through the years of my kids, with baseball coaches, and
All right, so as a small business owner, what's your biggest irritation with government? And maybe not county government, just government in general. Because you talk about county being able to help facilitate, and the government doesn't build small business does.
Right.
You guys did when you started out with nothing, you built yourself, which
Right.
is why you should keep what you earned.
Exactly.
Right, free enterprise system. But when you look at, day-to-day operation, you want hardly any government. When government does get in the way, what's your biggest irritation with government as a small business owner?
Paperwork, from every different level of it. I mean, there's so many things that are just, to me, it's paperwork and money, and I'll pick one out that's a real simple one. It's DOT. You have your DOT numbers. When I got for years I ran tow service for 20 years plus.
Okay.
I ran a towing service, and I asked when I first got it, I called the DOT.
Department of Transportation?
Well, no, I called the officers. I knew them from running record. I said, do I need to
Oh,
get
the sheriff deputies.
Well, not the sheriff,
state?
but the runs that run the scales. I can brain freeze here. They have their own thing. The state police that runs the scales. They have their own.
Transportation, whatever people. Yeah.
But anyway, I asked them. I met one of them. I said, "Hey, what do I need to do?" "Oh, your record. Don't worry about it." So I never had DOT numbers for years. I didn't run DOT.
Well, you're running under CDLs.
No, it didn't matter. I was a commercial vehicle. By law, I was supposed to get it. But I asked them, "What do I really need to do?" And they were just, "Don't worry about it." Well, one day I impounded a car from the scales for something I don't remember. It was some illegal activity. We had to impound it here. They had to come do inspections. Well, I had 14 DOT officers here, and one of them comes up to me and goes, "Hey, you better get your DOT numbers. They're talking about it." So anyway, I go to start getting my DOT numbers. I fill out all the paperwork. I do all the stuff. I pay all my fines, my fees and stuff. They come in to do my first audit. I had both my trucks where everything was fixed, everything was perfect, and they're coming for a safety inspection. So the officer walks out to the truck with me, and we're going to do the safety inspection. We had just done some paperwork, and she opens the door on the truck, looks at the door sticker, slams the door, walks over to the other truck, opens the door, looks at the sticker, slams the door, and starts walking away. And I said, "I thought we were doing a safety inspection." "That's all I need to see." In my mind, a safety inspection, make sure my lights work, my brakes work, everything works on it, and everything was work. I had just went over both trucks, everything was perfect. I was proud. I wanted to show it off. We didn't even start them. So we come back in, we go through some things, and the funniest, silliest one was she asked me for my application. I was the only driver. I'm the owner.
It's
I'm
your
the driver.
business.
It's my business. She wanted to know where my job application was, and I said, "I'm the owner. I need an application in your file." I said, "Are you serious?" I thought she was kind of joking. I was trying to be light, and she's like, "No." So I said, "Okay, I'll fill out an application." So we go on, and the next thing she goes, "And I need a yearly assessment." I said, "Of who?" She goes,
"You gonna criticize yourself?"
you need to evaluate yourself. And I'm like, "Are you serious?" I said, "I'm supposed to sit in a room and ask myself questions. Are you doing drugs? Do you drink? Do you have problems?" And she got kind of upset then because she was dead serious. So from then on, every year I sat down with myself and did an assessment and put it in my file because you had to have one.
The government, the state encourages you to talk to yourself, and that's the totally same thing.
Yeah, but anyway.
I do it all the time, but people say it's not normal. So
and I shouldn't probably be saying that, but to me, the DOT has its purpose, but there's too much of it, I think, is just there's money involved in it.
Needless paperwork.
Fees and fine and paperwork. I mean, there's companies that have DOT personnel that do nothing but handle their DOT stuff.
Yeah.
And I still keep my DOT numbers even though I don't have the records because we're still planning on possibly doing something. So I keep it active and pay my fine, pay my fees and keep it going because it's easier to keep it than have to go back and redo it. And anyway,
Right.
but basically stay out of my way and help me run my business instead of hamper me.
So not hindrances, smooth roads.
Lack of paperwork,
Right.
just let things go.
You got kids that are grown now, but with young grandkids, you're thinking about whatever's the youngest generation. In your case, you got how many grandkids?
3 grandkids, 8's the oldest, 2's the youngest here.
Okay, so school age or preschool come
Yeah.
young with that. What are your top 3 concerns or needs that you want to make sure are met for your kids, and what role does government play in that?
Well, their education for one. When I was in school, trades were still cool. It was still okay. I took welding, I took ag mechanics, and it was still okay. I mean, we had at East Central, where I graduated from, we had a very big ag program. I probably used more that I learned in that ag program every day than any other subject I took. I mean,
Really?
I'm in the garage working on cars, so cutting torches,
Right.
welding. Ag mechanics was working on stuff, so that part of my high school education was probably what I utilized every day from when I graduated till today and until I retire. And then I'll still do it because I do it at home. But
Okay.
so education for the kids, changing the direction. When my kids came through school, the direction changed to where you had to go to college. We're going to go to college. So my son, we never pushed either one of our kids to go to college. We pushed them to be as smart as, not be as smart, but do what you can do.
Right, everything to the max. Win.
Push whatever you could. And I'll use my son as the example. My son could get A's and never studied. He got stuff. He was one of them kids. He did very good in school. He was in advanced math. Thank God for my sister that got him through that, because I'm not at advanced math, but my sister had the same teacher, so she was his tutor and explained to him how this teacher wanted to see it, and then he got it. Once he got it, then he was fine. The long story short, comes to his senior year, he decided he wanted to work for me. So, but he's in pre-cal, advanced English, he's in all college prep courses still his senior year. And we never told him what they had to choose for classes. We let them choose their own, but we kind of encouraged it. So his last year, he went to see the guidance counselor, and her answer, she was asking, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to be a mechanic. And she's like, well, what are you doing taking all these classes if you just want to be a mechanic? And I'm like, so what do why would you ever say that to a kid? So he dropped a bunch of these college prep classes and took BS classes, and his grades actually went down this last year.
Right, because he's not challenging himself.
He didn't care. She told him he's just going to be a mechanic, so why should he care? Well, I happened to be working on that counselor's car at the time, and so we were doing. I'd worked on it one day, so I hooked my scanner up to it. She had 27 computers in her car. So when she came to pick up her car, I had a little talk with her about what you tell a kid in education and why you don't. So I started talking about my son, and I said, you talked to my son the other day? And she goes, yeah. I said, and he told you he wanted to be a mechanic. She goes, yeah. I said, why did you tell him, why is he wasting his time taking these classes if he just wants to be a mechanic? Well, I don't know if I said that. I said, yeah, you did. He came home and told us that, and he dropped a bunch of those classes because you told him he's just going to be a mechanic. I said, I scanned your car today while I was here, didn't charge you for it because I just wanted to see. I said, you have 27 computers in your car, 27 electronics. I said, do you want the kid working on your car in a few years that gets by with just doing the easy classes, or do you want the kid that's smart enough to do pre-cal, calculus and do these advanced things? Because I said, that's what I need. I need that smart kid. I need a kid who doesn't mind getting dirty, but I need a smart kid too who understands more advanced things.
Their mind is strong and been challenged by education that challenges them.
And they're willing to learn the automotive challenges and grow with it. I mean, today we're in EVs, we've got the electronics is crazy. You can't blow a horn on your car without it going at least one computer, probably 2 or 3. So, so I had it out with her. I said, don't you ever tell a kid that he's wasting his time taking a class to just be a mechanic. I said, did you look at his grades, his prior 3 years of grades in his classes? Did he ever have a bad grade? I said, he's been in advanced classes since 7th grade. I said, he's always had A's and B's and never really worked hard. I said, now, and he was already had his first report card. I think he had his first C or D on it. I said, now he's getting bad grades because
sounds like my normal grades.
Well, he said I said he doesn't care no more because you told him he's just going to be a mechanic. So back to education. We need education to teach kids to go do what they want to do.
Right.
Whether it's the smart kid who wants to be a mechanic or wants to be a plumber or an electrician or he wants to go to college. We need all of them.
Right.
But we need everything filled right now. We have such a shortage of mechanics for one, just my field. We have such a shortage of mechanics. There's more mechanics quitting when I started than joining. So how bad do you think we are now? That's been 30, almost 40 years now. I've been working on cars, been a mechanic.
Right.
And there was more mechanics
Well,
quitting then.
you bring that thing, you said as a small business owner, you want government that helps you grow, not hinders.
Right.
So one of the ways you can help do that is, and when education ties into that, because if people are churning out people who just want this, the job that the government teachers or the government personnel think you should have versus letting kids explore and encouraging creativity and diversity, to have actually equity and inclusion in the economy, right? The liberals will talk about that one other way, but in small towns, that's actually how you grow a business. There's no point for you or me as a small business owner to go and try and grow the business when you know you're just creating, when you as the business owner, your quality of life is going to go downhill because you can't find reliable workers to scale the business up. So how are you supposed to create local jobs? Go build a bigger business. Go build nicer properties. Go spend more money, which all generates tax revenue, other things, helps the county, helps you. It's a symbiotic relationship, and then creates more real estate opportunities and more building because now you got more people moving the area.
Or staying in the area.
Or staying in the area. That's a big thing. Indiana, there's several of the people running for governor currently. There's like 6 governor candidates. I've heard multiple people talking about what can we do to keep young people here. And I hear it frequently from people, well, there's nothing here for me. And part of that's I think that's a mindset problem.
Right.
Because as a business owner, you know, there was nothing here for you either. You brought something here. You built something here.
This was trees. Where you're at this was a woods. This was 4 acres of woods that, I bought, cleared, built the building. We brought it here. People were asking me, why are you building in St. Leon? Why are you, why didn't you, I should have, business wise, I should have went to Harrison or somewhere of a larger town, would have a bigger pool of cars to work on, but I didn't want to. I wanted to build in my home. This is where I grew up. I wanted to stay home. I wanted my kids to grow up right here, and I wanted to be my business here, so I was close to home. So, that's why we built here. And kind of back to the education thing too, is my daughter did just as good, but had to work harder at it. So, and I see in my grandkids, my oldest Braden he's very smart. He's very driven.
He's your 8-year-old grandson?
He's the oldest one, yeah, he's 8. He's very driven. He's very athletic. He's going to be kind of like Justin, my son. He's going to get it. Hudson, my middle one, he's more hands-on. He's going to struggle a little bit more, but he still is very smart, very attentive, but he just his
strengths are in different areas,
and he's going to need to be taught differently. But I got a feeling the way our system is set up, he's going to get pushed and left behind because he thinks different and he reacts. He's a hands-on kid,
right?
So he's going to be different, but he'll be the mechanic. Not because he's not smart, but because he's a hands-on kid. He's gonna have a job doing something. Braden might be the kid that goes on to college and does whatever. And we need, like I said, we need all of them.
Right.
We need engineers and stuff, but we need schools to encourage the kids, the Hudsons. Don't just push them off. Let them explore.
Right.
Encourage them to go
develop
explore.
all kids.
Right. Encourage those kids to go explore that other trade.
So this is a question I always find interesting to ask people. Who is one of your greatest heroes in your life and why? And that person could be a figure from history that really influenced you, or a grandparent, or a school teacher, or an uncle.
Well, mine will be 2 probably, is my mom and dad.
Okay.
My dad, I think, was 8th grade education.
Wow.
He quit school when they had to. I mean, they had to farm to survive. So my dad quit school. My mom graduated, but never went on to college. But here's two young lovers. They get married. They start having kids. My dad's working in a factory. But he built a business with nothing. He started with a roadside stand, selling fruits and vegetables in our front yard with a little shed, and turned it into a business and raised 6 kids. Did we have everything? No. Were we spoiled? No. I remember we went one vacation in my lifetime. We went to Mammoth Caves one year, and I think probably my oldest think my oldest two brothers were gone, so it might have been just me and my two brothers right above
So you
me.
were the young ones who got spoiled.
Yeah, we got
You
spoiled.
actually got a vacation.
We got a vacation.
A vacation.
But we went to Mammoth Caves. But growing up, you didn't want. We didn't want anything. We had. We had food.
You had love.
We had
you
love.
had nourishment.
Yeah, we had nourishment. You had a house. You had a roof over your head. You worked. We grew up working.
That's what you need. Kids need work to do.
Right. You weren't in trouble, really. I mean, you all did stupid stuff, but none of us were really, in trouble or troublemakers,
Right.
because you were busy, but you were taught you had good moral values. But, both my parents are gone now, so but growing up, and when I started my own.
So why were they heroes of yours? Just personal responsibility. They never whined. Work ethic. I mean, what character trait?
And taught me, and I kind of going back to when I was going to mechanic trade school in Lincoln Tech. I had a teacher one time said we were talking about starting your own garage and stuff. Well, I grew up. My dad owned a business, so I didn't know what you've got to put into it. And he's like, you as a business owner, you can't count. You can't work extra hours. And I put my hand up. I said, no, when you own your own business, you do whatever you've got to do to make it survive. That's how your business will grow and survive. Well, how do you know? And I said, well, my dad has owned his own business. He's, raised 6 kids and started with nothing. And he worked his butt off, and he's got what he's got. And we had an obvious disagreement in how things were run. But, when I wanted to start my own, I kind of modeled myself after my dad. You do what you got to do. You fix what you got to fix. And
so would it be the reason why your dad and mom are such heroes is because you look to them to be like they effectively passed on their values?
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of people who successful business owner, but their kids, they just didn't get their own genes. And they say that they have their genetics, but they somewhere along the lines, what they picked up naturally, they didn't learn how their parents effectively modeled it. And maybe the way society has changed, it hijacked that natural one generation passing on those character traits to somebody else.
And I think some business owners spoil their kids to where the kids don't appreciate hard work. We had what we needed, and we had to earn our money, though. If we wanted something extra, a lot of times we had to earn our own money, and you bought it yourself, so you appreciate it, which I taught my kids, the same thing. I could have given them more than my parents gave me because we were doing better than my parents were doing, which is what every parent wants their kids to do better than they way.
Yeah, your parents are the only. I saw a quote the other day. It said it was some woman. This phrase is women are catty, etc. Don't trust women. Whatever those cliques of girls that run, whether it's high school or even as you grow up, that as a female in her middle years of life, that her mom should be your best friend because she's the only woman who wants you to be better than she is.
Right.
And I thought about that. And the same thing would be true for a dad.
Right.
It was interesting the way that phrase. It's just something I saw just this last week here recently.
But yeah, I mean, I real quick, I was at a learning to appreciate. I mean, I built this with nothing, so this was nothing to what I have now. So I was at a business class with all these other mechanics, and it was put on by a company. So
recently,
this has been 15 years ago. I was very young then, but I'm sitting in the room with all these guys that are my age that are now taking over their dad's garages, and they're very spoiled and not understanding what it took. So the teacher was asking a question, and I was listening to some of these comments, some of these, I call them kids, some of these young guys that were talking about their dad's garages, and finally I had enough. And because they were complaining about their dad. Well, he's afraid to do this, or he's afraid to do this, or he won't do this. And finally I just kind of had enough. I said, do you understand what your dad has done to get you what you got? I said, he's worked his butt off. I said, was he the owner? Did he start the garage? Well, yeah. I said, so he started with nothing. He built it to what he's got it. He's handing it over to you, and you're not appreciating his fear of losing everything he's got.
Right.
I said, because that was what he's worked for, and he wants you to take it over, and he wants you to grow it from there and take it to the next step. But he doesn't want you to ruin it, and he's scared because he's lived through a lot, because he's older than you, so he's seen a lot. So I got done with my speech to this guy, and I was just fed up. I was standing in the hall drinking a pop or something, waiting, and the teacher comes up to me and goes, thank you. I wanted to say that, but I can't. Thank you. Because it was the whole 2-3 days was these these young owners just complaining about their dad didn't want to do this. So anyway, that's mine. But that was my parents' upbringing though, and me starting with nothing, and I understood the sacrifices.
So one other question, and I don't know if this is You could do this. You can answer this on a state level, or if you can think of a county issue. If if a genie showed up and granted you one wish of a law or a county ordinance, maybe a state law or county ordinance, that you could either repeal or pass. You just got one wish, and that's not how ordinances work.
Yeah,
Even if you get elected commissioner, you're you're one of 3 commissioners. If you're on county council, you're one of 7 people. If you're in the state reps, we have a balance of powers. But if you could change one thing, is there something that pops to mind?
Man, there's so much stuff. Fixing the tax system would fix everything.
Yeah, follow the money. Yeah.
Follow the money. Fix our tax system to make it simplified for business owners and workers, people working. We work. I read somewhere where your money is taxed 3 times by the time you get it and use it. You've been taxed 3 or 4 times. There's not one law to fix that, but that's a big one to fix the system, and that can apply locally too. Is I'm afraid we're taxing our elderly. My mom, she just passed away, but that generation still trying to live around here with the way our taxes are raising and growing, faster than their income can handle. Are we taxing ourselves out of the people that grew up here, that were born and raised here?
Right.
We have people moving.
Are we biting the hand that fed us all these years and built the county that now can't afford to live here?
To help get you the county the way it is. You got the farmers, the small farmers and stuff that are still trying to farm, they're still trying to raise food. That they're not corporate, but it's their side job. They work in a factory during the day, do that at night. Are we taxing them out of their property to where they're not going to be able to afford to farm? They'll have to sell it off. People come to this community because of what it was. And I told a lady one time.
They don't want Cincinnati. We like being close to a city, but we don't want this to be another extension of Hamilton County or et cetera.
Right. I told a lady, we were talking one time while I was towing tow truck drivers, kind of like bartenders. You start talking. We were on a long tow somewhere.
And you meet everybody.
And you meet everybody,
on their
all
worst
walks
days.
of life. On their worst days and all walks of life. And I can talk to anybody just about. Ask my wife. But I met this lady and we were talking about living out here. And my simple answer for everybody.
This was a lady from the city?
From the city.
Okay.
Was she had moved out here and started complaining about the roads. And she lived on a back road up in Franklin County that was, in the wintertime, I didn't live down there, but I knew that road was bad in the winter. It's a hill and it's shaded. It's going to be icy. If you moved in there and didn't realize that shady road was going to be bad, shame on you. So anyway, we're talking about it and she started talking about things and somehow we got down to my analogy for it is it's not the air, it's the attitude. And we were talking about kids and how kids
for the reason why she moved out.
Why you want to bring kids out here and the rural kids, and that's what I told her. I said, ma'am, it's not the air, it's the attitude. It's not just, you don't just move out here, I'm breathing Dearborn County air, my kids are breathing this air, they're fixed. I said, it's the attitude. It's the parents, the way we were brought up. The parents, the rural kids, their parents generally brought you up different. Like my parents, a lot stricter, and you knew what your rules were, you knew what your boundaries were, and that's what fixes the kids. You can't just drop them off and fix it. So.
How do you plan on staying connected with constituents in your district if you get elected?
Social media is the future. If you're not on social media of some sort, you're not connected. Now, is that going to connect everybody? No, but it's a big portion of it.
Okay.
So one plan is I have a Facebook page now. It's Duane Bischoff for commissioner.
Okay.
I plan on keeping that. I want to start a Twitter or an X with it, which is Twitter. Instagram, not really so much because that's not for information, but between X and Facebook,
you'd be able to get everybody.
Keep those pages open. We've started a few conversations on there of people that are following the page now and asking questions, and I'm getting. I had shared a couple of them with you tonight. We're getting opposing views on a subject, and whatever the subject is doesn't matter. But it's fun and it's nice. There's no yelling. There's no, nobody's in there screaming their view that, and calling any names because I won't allow it for one. I hid one comment, but I messaged the gentleman and told him why. And I said, it's not what this is going to be. If you want, it's the same as my sewer board meeting. If you want to talk, I'll listen all day. Once you start there, we're done. I'm not going to listen to that because there's nothing gained.
Right, it just escalates and you can't get things done.
And you get name calling. What do you fix with name calling? Nothing. Right. Nobody has a constructive conversation. So, but right now we've got a conversation going on about spending some money in the county, and it's fun. I mean, it's nice because you're getting points of view that I didn't know, and I want to see it, but that's how you govern, and that's how you lead a county, is you listen to the responses, and then you go have to make the best decision on it. But you've got to ask people what's going on out there and find out what's going on, to get those answers. And that's what I want to, my plan is to share projects on social media for one, and help spread it that way, and try to get more followers, and and get people to follow.
Would you be? I've heard a lot of people complain about times of meetings to be involved in county government, etc. Are you in favor of shifting that to where more people can get access to?
That's first on my agenda, is changing the meeting times. You said I run 4 businesses here right now. I've got the power sports, the garage, we have a storage unit, and then we just started a new business for accessories for our side-by-side. So,
and you farm on top of that?
Plus I farm, that's my hobby. So, but yeah, so they say if you want something done, ask a busy person.
Yep.
So anyway, so I have the benefit to run for this office because I do own my own business, and my wife works here with me, not for me. She works with me. So I'm extending my childhood. Mother and father working together, don't know no difference. So, but I have the benefits of where she can keep the businesses going. My kids both work for me too. My daughter's part-time, my son's full-time. So I have that benefit as a business owner and somebody here to run it. I can leave for these meetings, but my plan is to change that one meeting at least to an evening meeting, to where it's 6 or 7 o'clock. I work till 5. So if I was in the city working till 5, I can't get here till 6 o'clock at least. So have one meeting later. Someone in one of my conversations though about changing meeting times, he said, what about people that work nights? So maybe there needs to be a morning meeting, but an earlier meeting. Maybe it's not 9 o'clock when it's the middle of the morning. Maybe it needs to be a 7 o'clock.
Well, but if for the few people who do work nights, if they've got issues, a spouse can go, a friend can go.
Possibly.
There's ways to get your voices heard, or as long as you're available through social media or other abilities.
But I'm open to suggestions and comments and try to figure out what the best. But definitely one is going to be an evening meeting where the average worker can't afford right now to take a day off work.
Right.
To go to a commissioner's meeting where they probably...
Yeah, it's like, what bill are you not going to play? Everyth's twice as expensive as it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Right, but they also don't want to go because they feel like they're probably not going to be listened to.
Right.
I mean, I've had to go to a few meetings, different meetings where I had to present something, and you can tell if somebody's really listening to you or if they're just there biding the time.
We listen to you, check that off the box.
Yeah, kind of a check mark, and you're done. And I've seen a few of the meetings, and that's the way they look like. As soon as it gets to the public comment, it's like are you done yet? And that's not what it's going to be. I'll listen to you, and if it takes 2 hours, I'll listen longer. I don't care, because that's what you've got to do to get people heard and get their voice and their opinion out. And I think after a while, it won't be bad. I think the first ones, there's going to be a lot of frustrated people because they've been pent up. They haven't had a voice. They haven't had a place where they knew they could go and talk. And it's going to be talking. There won't be screaming and yelling. You come and talk, have your piece, and we'll see what we can do to help it. But they haven't had a place where I don't think people feel they could do that. And we're going to give them that place.
Okay. In your opinion, what kind of person is a good fit for local government? Because people say, oh, they'd be great. I hear this all the time. Oh, they'd be great. Well, somebody who's good for the governor may not make a good attorney general. And somebody who's good for, as a judge, may not make an awesome sheriff. Like, there's character traits for different things. Somebody who's good at the state may not do so well in Washington, D.C. Somebody who's great in Washington, D.C. on the federal stage doesn't do very good in local county government. When you talk about county government, what are the kind of character traits that, and don't make this about yourself, but if you weren't running, what kind of character traits would you want on somebody that you'd say, I'd put them as an A+, I'm excited to vote for them?
They need to listen, and honestly listen. Look somebody in the eye. One thing impressed me when we first met and you were young is you looked me in the eye. I've had kids come in here, won't look me in the eye. That's a first turn off. And it's not taught. You were taught, well, you look somebody in the eye when you talk to them. So I want somebody to look me in the eye when I'm talking to them. Don't fidget with your papers or look at something else, but listen to what I'm saying and hear it. Even if you don't care, at least listen to me. Hear me out. Hear my voice. So somebody who will listen, somebody who can listen to all sides and not be offended or be judgmental. Like I said,
understand where someone's coming from and still disagree with them at the same time.
Listen
but
to their
still
perspective.
Understand them.
Right.
I mean, so many people, when they start listening, it's, I disagree with one thing, and then they shut you down, and I'm hearing you, but I'm not listening to you.
Right. And you never know where the fix for your problem may come from the person you oppose the most. They
Right.
may have an idea that you just didn't think of, and it's not a right or wrong, left or right
They're
answer.
just
It's
coming from a different perspective.
right. They have a different viewpoint, which is another thing, I think we need is a person with a different viewpoint than what's been viewed, what they've seen for the last 20, 30 years.
Right.
We need somebody that has an open mind to a different perspective or outcome.
Okay.
But it's
So listen, look in the eye. What else?
and somebody that can learn to get along with the constituents. I mean, we work. If I'm a commissioner, you're a commissioner. You work for me. I don't work for you. So when I come in, I'm your boss coming in to talk to you. So I expect you
As the voter, you're the boss.
as the voter, I
Yes.
expect you to pay attention. And you're not going to jump through hoops and do everything they say, but I expect you to pay attention and try to resolve whatever issue I have if
Right.
it's resolvable. So those are, I mean, those things.
Do you
There's a
think?
couple things
Do you
will
think
fix it.
having commissioners, they're the executive branch of the county. Do you think somebody who's got a business owner background versus? I mean, there's very smart comp. You could have somebody who's an amazing surgeon. That doesn't mean they're going to make a great business owner. Do you
Right.
think having some kind of business or management or some kind of private sector experience builds that type of person would do well as a commissioner, or does that play into that at all?
I think every politician from county to federal should have to own their own business for a year and survive.
They wouldn't make half the stupid rules they make and require all the paperwork.
For
that they
one,
do. Yes.
it's like an engineer ought to have to work in a garage before he's allowed to design his first part on a car. But every politician should own their own business or manage it. Maybe not own it, but run it.
manage it. See
So-
the big picture of things.
So they understand what it takes to turn the lights on every day. It's not
Yeah.
just the money isn't flowing on trees and not. So yes, I think a big positive is having a business owner that's an active business owner and to me, even a retail business owner is probably a little better than a manufacturer because they're used to
Because they
dealing with the
Deal
public.
with the public more.
I'm in retail sales, basically retail sales,
Right.
and working with customers. I dealt with customers since I could count. I learned to make change in my parents' business, and I've been dealing with customers my whole life,
Right.
pretty much since then. So
What are the top 3 issues you care about that you would like to bring about change in county? Not federal or state, but specifically the county, or maybe 2 issues you care about.
the openness that was kind of where I was going to go with my meeting times was have it more accessibility, create
Okay.
more accessibility for the public to share their concerns.
Is there anything else as far as you already touched on taxes, but you've got emergency response units, you've got zoning and planning, you got building codes. There's other things that county government. There's the jail. I mean, are there other aspects of county government
Yes.
other than those 2 you already covered?
Yeah, as fast as this area is growing, EMS and police is going to be a problem that's going to have to be solved, and it needs to be worked on.
I mean, it's going to be a problem, or there are going to be challenges and problems that come up with it.
If it's left alone, it's probably going to become a problem and
Okay.
bigger. The challenges are going to get greater if it's not looked at now and get some volunteers involved. And there's great people in this community that would volunteer for these things, but they're not allowed in the door. And starting my conversations, on Facebook, a gentleman private messaged me on my page, the Dearborn
Okay.
County page, and we went back and forth about a few things. And one of his big concerns was police and fire and EMS and response. And he has an extensive background
Okay.
in that area. So I just said, hey, if I'm elected commissioner, would you be interested in volunteering to be on a countywide board that would look at the countywide response and see what can be done to help these departments grow and do it? He absolutely is. Our messages were going back and forth and there was delays, but when I hit that one, it was an absolutely, right back at it. So there's one person that probably wouldn't have reached out or wouldn't have been reached out to or may not have known about it if it wouldn't have been for me running now. So
I found that if I could add one plug for the last question I asked, I think somebody I want involved in county government in an executive role, when we don't hire all the people, but you do hire some, is I want somebody who's good at finding good talent.
right.
There's a business guy, Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he also co-authored a book with Donald Trump called Why We Want You to Be Rich, talking about we don't like this thing of rich get richer. We want everybody to, you're poor, we want to help you grow. You're middle class, we want you to grow. It's,
it's a benefit for everybody.
It's a benefit. Free enterprise is about win, 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 win for everyone. And it's a really good book. Read this last year. But one of the mindsets that they cover in that is, when we start the business, our goal is not to be the smartest person there. Our guy is to be the dumbest dude at the table, and we've hired everybody else who's smarter than us. That's how you build great corporations that can do more than you can. And so I would add one other trait, as I like someone who either knows how to hire people and also knows how to fire people, because sometimes you do addition through subtraction, because sometimes you can like the person, but they're just not the best fit for the role.
Right.
So maybe you're fired, but maybe it's not that, but it's, hey, let's move you over here where you'd be a better fit.
Right.
Because you're not in this in good fit. But then the other thing, when you're dealing with local government and you've got, you don't have the big budgets to hire everybody, is finding people who would be involved. And I've talked with this, people who have the heart to be involved, but unless they ask me, I'm not going to get involved. And so they have their heart's in the right place, plus they have the character and competence to execute well, but it has to be, I think, for a commissioner role, is somebody who's very good at getting engagement and involvement from other people.
Make people feel wanted.
Correct. And valued, and that their input actually matters and carries weight.
And
that's how you build volunteer organizations.
This community is full of so many smart,
right,
probably a lot smarter than me, and talented in many different areas that probably just don't feel wanted or don't feel like they're open to get involved. And they're not.
I know for a fact, I've heard that specifically just in the last couple months. Recently, people who are very competent, have careers in certain areas that would be involved, but they've tried to get involved or offered opinion and got pushed out of the way or strong-armed, and they're going,
why do I want
I was a volunteer. I'm not fighting to do free work here.
I'm just going to stay home and do my thing and have at it. Yeah. And it's like I said, I've been doing this 2 months. I think maybe on my pay, I don't even think it's been 2 months yet, but this was...
Yeah, you're in your...
another
2 weeks. Yeah, a month and 6 and 7 weeks.
But this is, in the second month, I found a person that is willing to volunteer for a board.
Right.
And I haven't checked his expertise. I haven't looked at it, just in conversation, what he says he's done. He's a qualified individual to be on this board, is willing to volunteer his time. So how many more are out there? We just got to ask. There's probably retired firefighters that are living out here now that would be a good person to get on a board that knows what they did it for a living. They can help these little, the volunteer departments, help them learn how to be more efficient or recruit more members. There's just so much to do.
Well, you can always get more done when you're not concerned with. I think President Reagan had a quote on his desk that said, "It's amazing how much you can get done when you're not concerned with who gets the credit." And when you build organization, you let other people, you find good people, you turn them loose.
Let them shine.
Yeah, and let them shine. You can get a lot of things done. Wrapping this up here, this time last year, did you ever think you'd be running for commissioner?
Hell no. No, I really didn't, but...
Did you ever plan to get involved in government?
In the back of my mind, there was some thoughts, possibly.
I think every business owner goes... I had a Sunday school teacher who's a business owner and did a bunch of other things. He goes, if I were king for a day,
right.
You talked about getting involved in politics. No desire to do that.
Right.
But you'd be great. You always said those things. You had those ideas. If Kevin was king for a day, and he just started laughing at me. He goes, but I don't want to be king, and we live in a republic. I'm like, I know, but you still but you should be involved. So in the back of your mind, every productive business owner goes, if I could just straighten things out. I know the answer.
I know I could do this better than this.
But it wasn't some agenda of yours to wind up in county government?
No, I had no plan.
5 businesses is enough, and kids and grandkids is enough.
And I don't plan on this being a career. So this is a job, another job.
So what changed? What?
Seeing how certain things got done and are getting done.
So just paying more attention?
Paying a lot more attention and getting my eyes opened up to a few things have changed my perspective on it. And I've, like I said, born and raised here. I've done my time volunteering on boards, so I've been around. I know how to work with tons of people and know how to get things done. And when the time came up, I just thought, now's my time. And my wife was finally, the last day when I signed up, she knew I was aggravated, and she was fine. And she's kind of sometimes my final push. And she's like, just go do it. You're gonna do it. You want to do it. Just go do it. So I left. And it was the last day to sign up, and literally was headed down one. There's a car wreck in Dover, and I didn't have a lot of time to spare, so I had to turn around and drive all the way around 275 to get to Lawrenceburg to get signed up by noon. I think I was there about 10 till when I turned in my paper.
So just before the finish line.
Yeah, right before the finish. But yeah, I just thought now's my time.
You got time for one more question?
Sure.
I don't know how relevant this is on a county level, but 1 year ago, if I had asked you your opinion on the political climate in our state or county, what would your answer have been, and has that answer changed in the last 12 months?
Horrible. I mean, and then that's for the country in general. Is nobody? It goes back to earlier. I said nobody can talk to each other, have a conversation.
Right.
And that's the political environment right now. Is nobody can get along with anybody else that isn't on their side or one side or the other. And we're not going to get anywhere unless everybody can learn to start talking to each other from a local county level all the way to the federal level. Is somebody's got to learn to start talking to each other and got to start waking up that we're headed in a wrong direction as a country. We can't print ourselves out of
debt,
out of debt and out of problems. And that starts at the county though too, because every debt we put on our local people, that puts the harder burden on them to take care of the federal. So this is
I was talking with somebody else. They're not running for local office or anything, but I was talking to somebody else in the last couple of weeks, and they told me that between 4 schools, Rising Sun only has like 3 million, but between Rising Sun, South Dearborn, Lawrenceburg, and East Central, this person told me there's over $200 million of debt in infrastructure.
I mean, East Central just added on. I don't know what the last edition was over here. I don't know. They just built a new pool that I've got some issues I got to look into there. I've heard some things.
I heard that. I live right across from South Dearborn High School, and beautiful campus. I don't go over there a lot, but that individual told me that, and I thought, wow.
That's probably about right. That doesn't shock me. I mean, the one.
But everybody complains about Washington D.C. spending money.
But you don't notice it, and
yeah,
you don't have a lot of choice in it. And from my understanding, is a lot of the superintendents are paid bonuses if the school grows and gets bigger and bigger. Well, how do you get bigger and bigger? You make it bigger and fancier. You draw more kids out. Your school grows, and you do better.
Right.
Instead of worrying about what the kids are learning, we should be pacing our superintendents pay them quality of education, not quantity.
One last question. I didn't have this written down, but you had made a comment to me, I think, a couple weeks ago. We were talking about something to do with sewer. And that was the first time I heard that. I think that was the first time. I didn't know you were on the sewer board before or anything else. Everybody wants health. Healthy bodies, healthy families, healthy marriages, healthy businesses, healthy communities, healthy state, healthy country. And when you look at healthy kids, you use the term grow. We want them to grow. You want your little 8-year-old grandson to grow up to be big, tall, and strong. But at some point, there's a shift from, your son being healthy. Let's say your son's a 200-pound strapping young man. You don't want him to grow to 2,000 pounds. You look at him growing differently and him staying healthy differently than your 8-year-old. When you look at a county that's so close to a big city and a city that's growing, or a city that's losing people because of the last 4 years and people are fleeing the cities, and I see it all the time. I deal with it with customers. Yeah, who would, right? It's a mess. And I don't really like that. I think, why are you running away from the problem? You live there, go back there and you fix the problem there. Don't send it here to me, right? I didn't ask to take care of your stuff. Yes. So when you talk about growth and responsible growth and having a healthy county, you had mentioned something to me about bringing in new development. I mean, we're all for growing, and building and etc. That's natural. That's a natural thing that's going to grow. It's going to have to happen. But you had made a statement, and this was something I'd like you to expound on, because I'd never heard of this before and I wasn't aware of this. You had said when a large amount of infrastructure comes in, and the county's giving tax credits or different things for developers or other things, that a lot of times, and their excuse is, well, that's going to help the county grow, and we need to have more money. We need to keep growing. We don't want to go stagnant, because that's the opposite end of the argument, or the other side of the table, so to speak. You had made the comment that usually new growth is often a hindrance and a financial burden to sewage infrastructure in schools.
from what I was told through my sewer years, when I was a sewer board,
Can you explain that more? We didn't have time to talk about it on the phone, but I
it's
logged
been a
away.
long time since I was dealing with the numbers of it, but the housing industry you can't sustain a community on just housing and property taxes. You have to have business taxes to offset gains in property. So the more homes you get, the more burden it is on your sewer system, your roads and streets, your school. So everything, those expenses are just going up and up. So if you don't have, and their taxes on homes isn't enough to always cover.
Well, that's the lowest tax rate. You get 1% on a homestead exemption. Businesses are 2%, agriculture is 3%.
So the way
Right.
I was
Is that
explaining,
correct?
I don't remember the number. That's why I said it's been a while,
Okay.
and I didn't look this back up. You got me, Sam. But
I
when
didn't mean to stump you. I just
but
I was
it's
a
not
legitimate
stump me,
question.
I just
I
don't
wanted to know.
remember the exact numbers on it. But when we were dealing with the sewer board and dealing with the growth and stuff coming, was the answers were you can't just have housing growth. You can't just keep pumping houses. You can't just keep building houses, or you will. Your housing taxes, your property taxes will have to continue to grow because your kids, it just
So-
doesn't, the model doesn't work. You have to have growth, but my answer kind of to the growth of it is we all want to see a certain amount of growth, but it needs to be a controlled growth.
Okay.
With developments coming in, there should be expenses to the developer, not just tax breaks to developers.
Yeah.
You need to look at what's that burden, what is that infrastructure, what infrastructure burdens are going to be caused by 100 house subdivision. Say you're going to take across the streets 100 and some acres here. I'm going to take the house of that acres has city water, city sewer, city gas. You could cut it down to 1/4 acre lots probably and put
400 homes.
possibly 300 homes over there. Well, what's the burden of 300 homes over there going to be on the infrastructure of this community? Well, East Central High School is right behind this, 300 homes, 2 kids per home. There's 600 kids dropped into this, into the school system sooner or later, probably, because most of those new homes would be for
Young families
young
or people
families
moving out
growing
here,
or
right.
growing families moving out here. So the numbers just got to that point where people were, we were talking about it, it was houses don't sustain a community. You
So
have to have,
just when you see growth and you say, "Oh, the county's growing," that doesn't mean necessarily when you actually look at government that it can actually create a bigger problem. Is what you're saying? It's not
Correct.
necessarily good growth.
you got to, what is the growth and where is
You
it?
can look at your tummy and go, "Oh, I'm growing," but that's not necessarily,
Not necessarily a
forgetting
good thing. I mean, like looking for jobs, let's say, you drive up the interstate going to 74, there's some massive new buildings up there, but they're warehouses. How many
Right.
of them, how many warehouses are going to be, how many employees are going to be in there? 20?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
are they high paying jobs that can support a wife and kids, or
It's
are they?
well, they're probably a decent job, but it's 20 jobs. It's not. So if you take the same amount of acreage, say in Dearborn County, and we take 100 acres and we fill it full of warehouses that employs 50 people, well, is that a big enough gain to
Right.
justify putting the warehouses in, or should we be looking for a business that's going to create some jobs?
Right.
Across this interstate here, Kruger Maddox, which is a greenhouse out in Sunman, Ripley County,
Right.
wanted to build over here, but decided not to, and I don't know the reasons why. But to me, that would have been something that should have been pursued and tried to encourage them to come. They hire a lot of people that work part-time jobs. So a lot of people, mothers, parents that are home during the day could have got part-time jobs there. It's not real high-paying jobs probably, but it's part-time jobs to earn a little extra income so you can stay home with your kids
Right.
and go work 5-6 hours a day.
It's economic opportunity that supports the kind of community people we want here.
And it's an agricultural business. It was growing
Right.
plants. They grow plants. It's one of the largest plant producers in the area probably. My dad used to buy stuff from them back
Okay.
when he was
Gotcha.
at greenhouses. So we need to look at bringing in growth business-wise that's going to enhance the community, not
Right.
just be a building.
And create more choices and options for the people who live
Right.
here.
Right.
Any other final thoughts or questions, things I didn't cover?
We broke the time clock, I
We
think.
broke the time clock. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and other people getting a chance to do this. One last question. If people like you or this is their first time hearing about you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you? Are you taking donations? Can people put signs out? Can people get involved? I mean, what?
Simple as just get all of on my Facebook page. That's the easiest for me. It's Duane
Okay.
Bischoff for Commissioner,
Okay.
for DearbornCountyCommissioner.com. If you search that, it'll pop up.
Okay.
Follow us, like us, comment on a couple posts, because what I found out is my wife followed me from the beginning, but wasn't seeing any of my posts because she didn't comment. But she wasn't seeing anything. Once she started commenting a couple times, now she sees everything. So for my followers, anybody that does watch this, comment on something, just say hi. Just get on there and say hi on a post. You'll start seeing more things, because I'm going to create some more conversations over this next month, all the way up until the election. I'm not a negative person. I'm positive. I want to learn. I want to know what people want to fix and help me fix it. But to fix it, I got to get elected. So I need your vote. I need your support. If you want signs, message me on there. I'll get in touch with you. That's the easiest way. It gives me time to think about it, figure out what it is, and get you what you need.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great. Well, Duane, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down, and I hope this is helpful for folks.